Morning or good evening, as the case may be, and welcome to Know Before You Go. My name is Nick Nurani, and I am managing partner of Prepare for Canada. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you here. I can see the numbers exceeding 100. That's great news. This webinar is designed to provide you with critical information that will save you time, money, and frustrations. Know Before You Go is created by prepareforcanada.com and brought to you by Scotiabank. We've developed this course with one purpose in mind: to help new Canadian immigrants settle in and succeed faster in their new country by helping them prepare for their journey well before they even get on the plane. One of the key elements of this presentation is the fact that you can ask questions live, and you have subject matter experts who will answer your questions. On your right-hand panel, you will see the GoToWebinar panel. You can ask questions and they will be answered, time permitting, but feel free to ask questions. Again, I must mention here, we do not answer questions about people, about the legal aspect of immigration. How do I come to Canada? Those are not questions we talk about. But I am now going to move on and introduce to you Pankaj Mehra, co-lead multicultural banking, Scotiabank. Hello, Pankaj, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Nick, and a very good evening to all our participants across India. As I always say when we start off, technology is a great enabler. Nick is sitting in Vancouver on the West Coast, where it's about 10:30, I guess, in the morning. And his team from Prepare for Canada are in another location in their offices downtown Toronto, while I'm sitting in Scotiabank premises head office in Toronto. We really look forward to all of you participating interactively. As Nick was saying, please do ask questions. This is something we encourage, because not only do you get answers online, which help you, but all the answers that we provide may also help a number of other participants who are listening in. And these webinars get recorded, so other people will benefit from it. I will now keep quiet and hand it back to Nick. So over to you, Nick, and get started.
Thank you. And I should also mention that Pankaj and I are both from India originally. Pankaj is from Delhi and I am from Bombay. Oops, Mumbai. Okay. Let's talk about making the big leap and the importance of research. The fact is, the more you know before you go, the better your journey to Canada will be. Yet, we still meet so many immigrants who have just not done any research. The fact that you have registered for this webinar shows that you are doing your research, and that's excellent. The sad truth is that when professionals make a mistake by not doing this research, inevitably, it is the family that pays the price for it. I know doctors and engineers who don't know how hard it is to practice in Canada. This is so sad and frankly unnecessary. Let's talk about some of the challenges you will face when you come to Canada. Again, the fact is dealing with change. It's important for you to understand that Canada is very different from India. We're not like the US, so those of you who've been to the US and think that we are like America, we're not. Understanding that change is important for you, and there's a lot of information on our website and the Know Before You Go ebook about Canada. Do read up on that. Getting a job. All immigrants are here, coming here, they want to work and they want to start taking care of their families. It is top of mind, and what's important for you is to connect with the settlement agency and use the help they provide before rushing off resumes blindly. They will help you in creating a Canadian resume, crafting your cover letter, and doing mock interviews, all at no cost to you. So we'll talk a little bit more about this at a later stage. Getting the family settled, perhaps getting children to school, getting a driver's license. We will cover all of this in a few minutes. Labor market conditions. The date you land in Canada will influence your employability. The fact is that if you land during Christmas time, there's not much hiring going on. Even landing in the summer, and a lot of immigrants coming in the summer, you must recognize that a lot of people will be taking vacations at that time. So you need to start factoring that in as well. The city you live in can also have a huge impact. The Toronto has more jobs than, say, Halifax. So go where your profession is in demand. Homesickness. We come from India and we have huge extended families and social networks. This is again where settlement agencies come in and you can start making a new circle of friends. And lastly, adjusting to Western values and Canadian weather can take some time. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to cover just very briefly the content of our webinar. So we're going to talk about settlement first steps, job preparedness first steps, and banking first steps. And for banking, we of course have the expert here, Pankaj Mehra. Let's talk about how Prepare for Canada and Scotiabank are helping you in your journey. Number one is we've got several live webinars. We've got videos on demand. We've got career pathways, ebooks. We've got regular newsletters. In the ebooks, we cover 22 of the top professions that immigrants have when they come into the country. Please seek out your profession, download that ebook, that will help you. You've already got the Know Before You Go book. We've got a book on soft skills as well as on LinkedIn for newcomers. Now, let's talk a bit about how you can help us help you. Number one is critical that you register for Prepare for Canada, which you probably have done, that's why you're here, but also for Scotiabank. And why is that? Because Scotiabank has the ability to send you special news items, special offers, and alerts. It's important for you in your journey in Canada. You can always unsubscribe, but the fact of the matter is, connecting with them will help you. Get a job, connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, invite a friend. If you know another immigrant who's going through the same journey, check that out. Also, keep checking your spam filter. Sometimes emails go into the spam filter and you may not get to hear about some of the other programs that we have. Before we go to settlement agencies, I think I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about the new online fair that Prepare for Canada is launching. So go to our website, check out the online fairs. We're launching the British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario online fairs in the next 3 months. Register early because you'll start getting information as you start registering. Okay, let's talk about immigrant settlement agencies. Canada invests almost $1 billion a year helping immigrants settle in Canada by providing free services and language assessment, classes, help finding a job, help with daily life, finding a place to live, daycare, childcare, so on and so forth. This is very important. You must find out about this because it will help you. You can go to the website that is highlighted over there. That is the website that will show you a map. You can also, when you go into our fairs, you can also go and visit those booths all online on your smartphone or on your laptop. Okay, let's start with a couple of quick frequently asked questions. This will help you understand how to frame your questions as you start sending them to us. Well, can I rent or drive a car with my foreign driver's license? Yes, but in order to rent a car, you must have a credit card as well as a driver's license. So Pankaj is there to talk to you about the credit card process, and I'll leave it for him to talk about that. For those of you who want to buy a car or want to drive a car, here are the rules. Driver's licenses and permits fall under the provincial jurisdiction. So you must check this out based on where you intend to live. In Canada, in Ontario, if you're new to Canada and have been driving for more than 2 years and have driver's licenses which are from the US, from UK, or even the Middle East, some countries, you are allowed to change your driver's license for a Canadian one without taking the road test. However, you must pass the vision and knowledge test for the province. All other newcomers applying for a license who originated from the countries not mentioned must present a valid foreign driver's license, pass a vision and written test regarding their province, pay all the applicable fees, provide acceptable proof of identity in order to obtain your Canadian license. Now, for my Indian friends, I would also suggest obtaining an international driver's permit or license in your home country, which allows you to drive in some provinces for a specific period of time. Sometimes it's 3 months, depends on the province. So check out the province. Also, while you are in your home country, it's important for you to get a letter from your insurance company saying that you have no claims. This could help you save up to 40% on your insurance costs when you come to Canada. Okay, next question. Is it easy to apply for government health coverage? But when you land in Canada, you will be given an envelope with your PR application form. Fill it out and mail it at the earliest. It will include all the information for your health card as well. Health services, again, are provided by the provinces, and each province has different rules on how you access these services. In BC and Ontario, your health coverage does not start for 90 days, so it's advisable to get private health insurance, as it can be expensive if you have any kind of an injury or any kind of an illness and you need to have access to medical services. If you're working in any other province or living in any other province than BC and Ontario, you can expect to receive your health services card within 10 working days. And how long does it take to get the PR card? Again, you already have your envelope with your PR card application. Send it out as soon as you can. According to the Citizenship Immigration Canada website, it takes 63 calendar days to get your PR card. What is the process to enroll my children in school? It's an excellent question. A lot of immigrants coming here come with 1, 2, 3, 4 children, but it's important for them to know about this. You need to have a proof of your child's age, the birth certificate or passport, permanent resident card, and confirmation of your permanent residence. That's your visa. You also need to have an immunization record. This is very, very, very important. This is critical because it shows that your son or daughter has been immunized. You also need to have proof of address, a copy of a bank statement. Pankaj will talk to you about that. A telephone, electrical bill, or apartment lease in your name. In some schools, newcomer students go to an assessment or reception center where their math and English language skills are tested. If you have your child's previous report card, textbook, or any other information that may be important, please bring it to the center, and this information can then be sent off to the child's school so that the teachers can be made aware of the child's progress. Moving on, let's talk about job preparedness first steps. It's important for you to recognize that the difference between the regulated professions and the unregulated professions. So regulated professions are 20% of the jobs in Canada, unregulated are 80%. So what are the regulated professions? The regulated professions are regulated in Canada by law. So you must have a license or certificate to work in these professions and trades. All the professions and trades in Canada for regulated bodies are regulated according to the province. There are regulatory bodies. These are organizations that control licensing and certificates in each province. If you get a license or certificate, it is valid in that province. If you move to another province, you may have to apply for a license or certificate, or maybe even take some extra courses in order to be eligible to practice in that province. So what are the jobs in question? So when you're talking about licensed professions, this includes doctors, engineers, teachers, accountants, nurses, pharmacists, electricians, so on and so forth. You need to get licensed. Now, the unregulated professions, these are not regulated by law, but they may have voluntary professional bodies. You don't need a license or certification to work in the unregulated professions. There are some voluntary bodies that provide certification courses and registration, which may help you to get work. Membership in these bodies is not mandatory. However, many professions have a voluntary certification. So what are these professions? So, it's a business manager, sales manager, HR manager, marketing manager, so on and so forth. So you don't need to get the certification, but there are bodies which will help you in understanding the labor market information for that profession as well. It's important for you to understand the difference between credentials assessment and credentials recognition. Credentials assessment means having your credentials assessed. So they will see how your credentials match up to Canadian standards. Credentials recognition is where they say, yes, these standards that you have and this education you have meets the Canadian equivalency of whatever it may be. That's the recognition part. So you may sometimes need to go in for further education or training to increase your chances of finding a job. For example, in the case of doctors, you do need to go in for additional training. Can I move from one province to another to pursue employment? Absolutely. You can work anywhere in Canada. You should, of course, do your research on the city and province that has the most demand for your skills. If you're coming to Canada under a provincial nominee program, I would suggest you go to the website of the province you applied to, as there are new rules about being sponsored by a province and living in another one. What is the job market like in Calgary? Calgary has had an interesting job market. It had gone down severely in the past year or two because of oil prices, but it is now slowly coming back up. And so you'll find out when you go into our online fair, which will feature Calgary and Edmonton opportunities. Check that out. What is the best way to search and apply for a job, and when do I begin? Here's what happens. Most immigrants start unpacking their laptops within hours of landing and start sending out resumes blindly. Please don't do that. Go to a settlement agency, understand how things work in Canada. I came here as a new immigrant and I did the same thing until I started understanding things happen differently over here. So try and do it slowly, try and do it more methodically rather than getting all out and starting to send out all these different resumes to different jobs. You won't get any response, and then you get disheartened. That doesn't really help you. Also, you should check out our other webinars. We've got a webinar on working in Canada, which has got some amazing information. Do check that out and attend that webinar as well. So, just to summarize, connect with us through the social media, download the appropriate Prepare for Canada Career Pathways ebooks, register for our working webinar, as well as for our upcoming online fair. I'd like to pass this on to Pankaj Mehra. Pankaj?
Thank you, Nick. So before I get into how Scotiabank assists newcomers coming to Canada, and as Nick had mentioned earlier, both he and I are immigrants. I've been here for roughly a little over 20 years. So I've lived the experience of newcomers. Scotiabank is a large bank. It's the third largest bank in Canada. We are known as Canada's international bank because we are the only Canadian bank which has a very extensive international operation. We are the only Canadian bank, in fact, with branches in India. We've been there since 1984. We don't actually offer retail banking services over there, but we do a lot of trade financing and corporate banking and that kind of activity. We've got branches in Mumbai and in Delhi and in Bangalore. But the slide will give you a rough idea of who we are and what we do. and 23 million customers globally. It's a large organization. Next slide, please, Nick. Now, when I came to this country, one of the biggest challenges I had was nobody was willing to give me a bank account. I think we've got the wrong slide, Nick. We should be looking at a start right slide. We started off looking for a bank account. When I came in over here, nobody would give me a bank account. Without an introduction by somebody, nobody would give me a credit card. They wanted a big deposit for a credit card to secure the limit that I was asking for. So there was a whole bunch of issues that we had, and to overcome all of those things, Scotiabank has created what we call our Start Right program for newcomers. If you can flip to the next slide, please, Nick. I think we've got the slides upside down here.
This is
thank you. So we started what we call our Start Right program for newcomers to Canada. This applies to all newcomers coming from whichever country to Canada. And essentially, we did a lot of focus group sessions and studies with people like yourselves, people like myself who came to this country to find out what are some of the key things that they want from their financial needs perspective, from their banking perspective. And as Nick was saying, banking is one of the key things, because as soon as you land in the country, in fact, even before you come, you need to have a secure medium for bringing your money from your home country, from India in your case, have it deposited in a secure environment over here, and be readily accessible to you when you need it. You need to build your credit history over here in the new country. You might have a credit card at home in India, but you need to start building your credit history in Canada, because that will then reflect on any financial transactions that you do over here, whether you take a loan for a car or a house or whatever. So our Start Right program essentially provides you all of those features. We give you a banking account, a day-to-day banking account with a debit card, an ATM card. And once you have landed here and you have activated the account, you are able to access it through mobile applications, through internet, through ATMs, through branches, whichever way you want to do it. We also have the ability of allowing you to open your account while still in India. Even before you land over here, you can open your account online. It takes a few minutes, and you can transfer up to $50,000 one time per family, so that you have money sitting in your account when you land, and we will send you a confirmation which will act as proof of funds in Canada at the time of your landing. And I'll talk about all of those things a little bit more as we go forward. But along with the day-to-day bank account and the debit card that you get, we also offer you a credit card. And credit cards can be on an unsecured basis, from limits anywhere from $2,000 odd to $5,000, depending upon the needs that you have. There are multiple credit cards. Some of them allow you to earn reward points. Some of them allow you to earn miles, air miles. Some of them get converted into free movies. We have an exclusive alliance with the Cineplex Odeon theater chain, and any debit or credit card you use, the Scene debit or credit card that we have, when you use that, you earn points which get converted into free movies. And all this is available to you by just producing your valid current passport and your landing visa. So if you're coming as a permanent resident, your permanent residence visa, or as a foreign worker, or as an international student, you can apply. You can open an account online, and once you come in over here, after you've activated the account, you can then apply for your credit card, and also apply for an auto loan to drive away in a car, or apply for a mortgage, a housing loan. And our financial advisors would be very happy to provide you guidance on how to go about getting those things in place. Next slide, please, Nick. So just a few things that I just talked about. You get a checking and saving accounts. We give you a $100 bonus on your day-to-day banking account 120 days after you've landed over here, which in in effect, it means you get a free banking relationship for a certain number of months. We provide you a free small safety deposit box for 1 year, subject to it being available. Now, in some cities or towns, there's a very large number of immigrants coming in, so our branches run out of safety deposit boxes. But we put you either on a waiting list or we refer you to the nearest branch where you might be able to get one until you can move it to a branch closer to your residence. I talked about the credit cards, I talked about the auto loan and about the mortgage. But the one thing that Nick and I normally tell people coming in is not to rush into buying a home immediately after you've landed. It's best to come in, do some research, get familiar with the city or the town that you're going to be living in, because depending upon where you want your kids to go to school or where you select your residence, your kids will go to school within a certain neighborhood in close proximity of the home that you're living in. So take some time to get familiar with your surroundings, with the city, before you actually decide to buy a house. But whenever you're ready, our financial advisors would be very happy to assist you. Next slide, please, Nick. So one of the things for your consideration, we do have packages for small business as well. So some of you may not be interested in working for anybody. You may wish to start your own business, and we do have packages available for people willing to start their own business. The other thing that I like to point out is the Registered Education Savings Plan, which helps you save for your children's post-secondary education. It's a great plan. The central government, the government of Canada, actually provides a certain amount of money matching the funds that you deposit into this account up to a certain limit, which almost guarantees you a 20% return on an annual basis. So if you have some surplus funds that you don't want immediately after you land over here, this might be an option, and you can talk to our financial advisors about that as well. Next slide, please, Nick. So here's some key questions that we've been asked in the past, and I think which you'll find helpful. Will my current credit rating from India apply in Canada? Typically, it will not, because we do not have credit rating agencies over here that are able to share the database from India at this point in time. So to start building your credit history over here in Canada, you will have to use a credit card issued by a financial institution in Canada, and that will help you start building your credit history. And under the Scotiabank Start Right program, we are able to give you a credit card on an unsecured basis, so you don't have to put any money down as a deposit, and for up to a certain limit, and you can use that to start building your credit history over here. How do I get a credit card? I just told you. The Start Right program offers you a credit card. Proof of funds, very important question. And as I said earlier, and I'll talk in the next couple of slides, I'll be talking about how you can open your account even before you leave India. Once you open the account, you can deposit up to $50,000 per family, which covers basically the principal applicant as well as 4 or 5 members of the family. And according to the Canadian requirements, at the time of first landing in Canada, each member accompanying the principal applicant, they all must bring in a certain amount of money, and details of that can be taken from the government site www.cic.gc.ca to see exactly how much money is currently the valid amount that you need to bring in with you as an absolute minimum. So the $50,000 will cover that, and we will send you a confirmation which will act as proof of funds at the time of landing. Now, in case you are unwilling to or unable to open the account before coming to Canada and transfer funds into it, you can always bring some money with you either by way of cash, traveler's checks, or a bank draft, and that can be declared to the Canadian Border Services Agency people at the time of landing, and that will act as proof of funds. Now, one thing I would urge you to do is if you do decide to bring a draft, get a draft made in Canadian dollars drawn on a bank in Canada. because that'll take about 2 or 3 days, up to 3 business days to clear. But if you get a draft drawn in another currency or on a bank outside of Canada, it might take 2 or 3 weeks to clear for the funds to be made available to you. And you'll also incur some charges, $30, $35, $50 for getting the funds cleared. So be mindful of that. Do carry some cash with you, because immediately on landing, even if you've opened your account with Scotiabank, until you go to the branch and activate it, you'll need some money to transport you from the airport to your place of residence, some meals, transportation. For all of that, do bring some cash with you for the first few days. Next slide, please, Nick. So I've just given you a general broad view of the Scotiabank Start Trade program for newcomers, and I'll go on to the next slide, please. So I was talking about the international account opening. If you go to our website, www.scotiabank.com/startright, you can go to an online account opening site along the lines in the top left-hand corner portion of the picture that you see. Let's get you started. Select the continent Asia and the country India in your case, and then as soon as you click on that, you'll move to the next box on the right-hand side, which allows you to open your account online. As soon as you click on the open your account online, an application will pop up. Fill up that application. Once you submit it, as soon as you submit the application, you'll immediately, within seconds, get an email from Scotiabank, and check your spam folder to ensure that it doesn't go into your spam folder. You'll get an email which will direct you to it'll provide a hyperlink directing you to Scotiabank's website and request you to create a unique password which should be used only by you and should be known and secured by you. Once you've done that and connected back to Scotiabank, you will be on the Scotia website. And from that time onwards, all further communication between you and the bank will take place on a secure site through that portal. As soon as you've done that, you'll get a confirmation of the account number that will be opened in your name. That has been, in fact, at the back end. Our processors immediately open the account and establish that. And you'll get a confirmation giving you the account details and how to contact us, plus instructions on how to transfer funds. And you can then print those instructions off, take them to your bank in India, and ask them to transfer up to $50,000, any amount. It's entirely up to you, but up to $50,000 one time are permitted to be transferred into that account. Once you've made that transfer, it can take up to 6 or 7 business days for the funds to be received by us and to be credited to your account. As soon as that is done, you will get another confirmation from us through the secure portal confirming the amount that has been put into your account in Canada. You can print that off and carry that piece of paper with you, and when you land in Canada, you can show that as proof of funds. So it's very, very simple. The only thing we would urge you to do is, if you're going to be traveling to Canada beyond a period of 6 months, that is, if you're not traveling within the next 6 months from the date that you decide to open the account, we would recommend that you wait until you're within that 6-month period. Otherwise, if you open an account and then don't come to Canada for the next 6 months, the account will become dormant, and because it has still not been activated, it just creates a little bit more of a difficulty in getting all the banking done. So make sure that you do that. Once you land in Canada, you can go to any of our branches and you can set up an appointment. You can select the branch from our branch locator on our main website, www.scotiabank.com. Walk into any branch with your valid passport and your immigration documentation, and they will help you activate the account, give you the debit card, ask you to apply for a credit card, get all that wonderful work done, give you a PIN that you will activate, and thereafter you can access your money through, as I said earlier, mobile applications, internet, whichever way you want to bank with us. If you should decide to transfer the account from the bank, from the branch where it is set up, you can easily do that. There is no cost, and you can easily transfer that. It takes about 5 business days for the account to be actually transferred to another branch, but that can be done at your choice, so there's no problem with that. The next slide, please. And I think we are pretty much at the end of the, yes, so we are pretty much at the end of the formal presentation. What I would like to do now is to open the floor up to questions. And if there, I have received some questions, so I'm going to try and see, with your permission, Nick. I've got 3 questions. So if I'll answer that, then I'll pass it back to you, and you can start to take on from there.
Perfect.
So the first question I have is from Jyotsna. How long does it take to open a bank account in Canada? So as I said, Jyotsna, from the time you submit an application to getting a confirmation of the account number and details on how to transfer funds, it shouldn't take more than a few minutes. It'll probably take you 5 to 7 minutes to fill up the application online, and it shouldn't take more than another 5 or 7 minutes to get a confirmation that your account is set up, and you can then arrange to transfer funds. Damodran has said, how to transfer money from Canada to India, what will be the charges? Well, Canada to India, you can transfer money through wire transfers, through SWIFT or wire transfer. And the charges depend upon the amount, and the exchange depends on the day on which you are arranging for funds to be transferred from Canada to India, and likewise from India to Canada as well. The exchange changes on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis. The rates change, and also banks charge their own fees for transferring funds. Sometimes there are also intermediary banks involved who may also charge a fee. So for instance, if a bank in India, ABC Bank in India, wants to transfer funds to Scotiabank, for instance, they may route the transfer through another international bank out of London or out of New York or wherever. And that intermediary bank, the bank in the middle, might also charge some money for transferring the funds. They will deduct it out of the remittance that's being sent from India or from Canada. Shaili has said, can I take a personal loan to show proof of fund, and how long it needs to be there in my account? I'm sorry, the proof of funds in Canada means the funds that are actually here in Canada. Or if you have not yet arrived and do not have an account in Canada for showing proof of funds in an account in Canada, then you will have to bring, as I said, you will have to bring that money by way of cash, traveler's checks, draft with you on your person, and show that on demand to the Canadian Border Services Agency. How you get that money and get those traveler's checks or funds to bring with you out of India, I cannot say. Those are your funds. You'll have to figure out how to do that. Pruth has said, can I create multiple accounts? You can open any number of accounts after you've landed over here and activated the first account, but initially we are just trying to make it easy for you to open one account, transfer your funds, show proof of funds, and get your banking going. Because soon after you land over here, there is one less thing for you to do, and especially because you'll be applying for your health card, SIN card, and all the other wonderful stuff that Nick was talking about. Having a bank statement and a bank account in place on day one will save you that time that you would do otherwise, having to go around and look for a bank account and so on. Akshat has said, can you tell us a bit about the mandatory 10,200 Canadian dollars for students and how to go about it? That's a totally different thing for international students, Akshat. There are 2 different things that Scotia is able to offer to you. One is the international account opening for permanent residents, international students, and foreign workers, and so on. That's just for your banking account. The $10,200 Canadian mandatory is for students who are coming to Canada to study and wish to apply for their study permit. The Canadian government wants international students to show that they have funds for their first year of stay in Canada, and one of the things that the embassy in Canada, the Canadian embassy in India has done is worked with Scotiabank to start off the Scotiabank student GIC program, where a student opens a GIC, which is like a fixed deposit with us over here, deposits $10,000 into it, and once the student gets the confirmation, he or she can then apply for their study permit in Canada. So that's a totally different thing. But you can get more details on that from our website, scotiabank.com. student GIC program. You'll find all the details over there. Saurabh has said, I'm a banker by profession. How to apply to Scotia there? I'm not sure if you're looking for a job. As Nick had said right up front, it's best to land in Canada and then start applying for jobs because, to be very frank, most employers will not contact you while you're still overseas. It becomes very difficult for them to do that. Manu has said, what is the minimum amount required to start an account? There is no minimum required. There's no minimum balance required, Manu. So you can open an account and not have any money in it and then deposit the funds after you land over here, or you can transfer any amount of money that you wish to show as proof of funds or for your immediate expenses after you've landed over here. Sandesh has said, after opening the account in India, we are supposed to collect debit and credit card in Canada after activating the account. That's correct, Sandesh. For security reasons, we cannot mail out the debit and credit cards, etc., to an overseas address. You have to collect it after you land in Canada and you've activated your account. Pinky says, in case there's any delay in coming to Canada after creating the account or transferring the money, is there any issue with the money? There's no issue at all. The money will stay in your account. As I said, if you're going to be delayed for more than 6 months, the account will just go dormant. It'll get frozen, and then we'll have to figure out a way of reactivating it after you arrive over here. Anant has said, within how much time period account becomes dormant? I've said that at least 3 times, Anant. 6 months. It's not after you have moved to Canada. If the account is opened and has not been activated and there's no transactions, it goes dormant after 6 months. Aniket has said, can we get a statement from Indian Bank to show proof of funds? The whole concept, Aniket, let me repeat again, is the Canadian government wants proof of funds in Canada. So getting a statement from Indian banks just shows that they are funds in India, they are not funds in Canada. So please ensure that you have funds either with you when you come to Canada, when you land here, or you have funds available in Canada at the time of landing. Procedure for car loan, Bhavdeep Anand asks. Bhavdeep, I think it would be best in the interest of time for you to come and ask that question after you've landed, because that is not going to be an immediate priority. We can resolve that within the first few days of your landing over here. You can get a car loan. Saurabh, if I open a bank account from India, how many months it will be valid? I'm not quite sure what you mean. The account is opened, it remains valid. It's if you don't use it for 6 months, then it goes dormant. Ketul has said, our liquid assets such as shares under capital market in India are considered proof of cash. They may be considered whatever in India, but they're certainly not considered proof of funds in Canada because they're in India, they're not in Canada. I hope that clears the whole thing. Ajay, is the debit card and account valid throughout Canada? Does it have to be changed? No, it doesn't. You don't have to change anything. The debit and credit cards are available throughout, not just Canada, but you can, if you travel to India, you can use those even in India. In fact, Scotiabank is a partner in an international ATM Global Alliance. So you don't get charged any fees if you use the debit card to access funds from an ATM and say Deutsche Bank or Bank of America in India, with whom we have that global partnership. Ajay, I've already answered that. Nitin has said, you talked about small business funding. What is the limit and requirement? Again, these are specific questions for individual cases, Nitin, so it's very difficult in the time available to provide answers to individual questions for individuals. We can give you all those answers after you've landed and you've come to our branch and visited one of our small business advisors. They'd be very happy to tell you. Sanket from Hyderabad, credit card limit depends on what factors, how many does it take to process? Great question, Sanket. The limit starts off, I believe, at about $2,500 and goes up. And it should not take more than 5 to 6 business days for you to get your credit card from the day that you land over here and apply for it. Anna says, does Scotiabank accept funds in US dollars in order to move to Canada? Could you provide? We accept US dollars, but as I said, there'll be exchange and other costs with that. But we will certainly be happy to accept US dollars as well. Gopi has said, can I deposit money in Indian rupees here in India and draw in Canadian dollars in Canada? I'm not quite sure what you mean. If you use a credit card or a debit card issued by an Indian bank over here, provided you are able to use it in any of the ATMs, you're going to be paying exchange charges and conversion charges and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure why you would want to do it, but it's possibly it can be done. I can't talk to the credit card or the debit cards issued by Indian banks. I can only talk about what we are able to do for people over here through our systems. Damodran has said, I understand the maximum amount we can deposit is 50,000, but as we pay this from India, will it incur any charges? As I said, you would have to pay exchange and money transfer fees that will be charged by the Indian bank over there. Atul has said, is there any specific format or documents required for opening of account like WES? I've just told you, Atul, this has been repeated multiple times, that the only things that you need to open the account is your valid passport and your immigration document. So if you've already got your permanent residence document or your foreign work permit or your international study permit, then you can open the account, and those are the documents we'll seek to activate your account. Vinod, can I transfer my credit card amount from India to Scotiabank? You can do whatever you want, but that is not building your credit history over here. You can certainly use the amount of money whichever way you want to transfer it using a credit card or whatever else means. I cannot comment to that, but it won't work as credit history in Canada. Akib has said, using a student visa, can I apply for credit card? What's the limit? Great question, Akib. We are giving all international students a $1,000 unsecured credit card, which means you will have a limit of $1,000 on a student credit card without having to put down any deposit for it to secure the credit card. I'm sorry, I got those questions very quickly, Nick, so I've taken away from your time, but I'm passing it back to you.
Okay, no problem. So I again want to repeat at this stage that this webinar is for people who have either got their visa in hand, have their visa gone for stamping, their passport gone for stamping, or doing the medicals. So I in the interest of time, whilst I understand a lot of people have questions about going to Canada, unfortunately will not be able to answer that. So I'm going to start off with a question from Sunil Paul. He says, how do I apply for government jobs in Canada? That's a great question, Sunil. It's more about what is it that you do. So what area, what field do you have? If you're applying for the federal government, that is, what we call in India central government, you need to know English and French. So that kind of makes it very difficult for newcomers to Canada. If you do know it, then there are federal government websites where you can go and apply for jobs. Again, don't try and apply for jobs. It doesn't make sense unless you're in the country. It's a waste of your time and the other person's time. You also have jobs in the provincial government, or as we say in India, the state government. So you can apply for these jobs. I would suggest you wait, come into the country, and then start looking at that. Jyotsna Jose is asking, what are the opportunities for tool makers and network engineers? There are opportunities. I don't know which province you're intending to settle in, but yeah. Sunil has another question. What about getting accounting jobs? Accounting jobs are great. There are lots of accounting jobs. It is a regulated profession. You need to find out what is it that you need to do in order to get your credentials recognized. Manu is asking, is it mandatory to know French to apply for a job in Canada? No, depending on where you're going. If you're going to New Brunswick or to Quebec, yes. If you're going to any of the other provinces, not really. Malika has left the chat, but she has a really interesting question, so I'm going to answer that. What if my professional experience deviates from my educational background? I studied sciences and made a career in publishing. Is this a major challenge that I'll face while doing a job search? Actually, Malika, you have an advantage. You've actually created an alternative career for yourself, which is a great practice. So you can look for both jobs in sciences as well as in publishing. Now, the publishing industry is going through a lot of changes globally. It's becoming more digital, but absolutely you can look at that. I don't think you'll face challenges. I think you'll face more opportunities. What city is good for IT person to work in Canada? Avadhoot Patil. It's across the country. I have done CA in India and applied in college in Saskatchewan for postgraduate course. Will I be able to get a job in Canada based on my profession in India? I don't know what is your postgraduate course, Kathy, so I can't answer that. But there are opportunities in Saskatchewan. Um, Procedure for learning driving and getting a driver's license from scratch without any driver's license extract from India. You have to start from scratch. So, Jasmine, find out which is the province you're going to, and find out what is the licensing procedure, and you will be able to follow that. What is the best health insurance for the first 3 months in Ontario? Unfortunately, at the present moment, we are not able to tell you about any private health insurance opportunities, but do keep in touch with us because we are in the process of talking with several providers, and hopefully we should have something for you. Murli, I have a question about getting a job for technical diploma in Canada and having experience in quality assurance and regulatory affairs in medical equipment and devices. Please let me know the percentage of job availability and probability for the course. Difficult question. Are there jobs? Yes, there are. I don't know which province you're going to. You'll have to look at the province and start looking at the labor market conditions. What is the living cost of Canada per month for a couple? Oh my God, Bhavdeep. That's a difficult question. It could be, let's say it could start at about, I would say, between 3,500 to $4,000 a month. Does it vary with the province? The question from Shagrika. Yes, it does. I mean, the cost of living in Toronto or Vancouver, your rental is going to take a large chunk of your budget because these are expensive cities to rent in. If you're renting in St. John's, probably a lot cheaper. Nitin says you talked about regular jobs in Canada. Can you please be more specific? I am currently associated with a middle-level insurance job in India. Okay, and you're going where? I don't know, Nitin. So, is insurance a regulated job? It's not a regulated job. It depends on what you do in the insurance industry. So, are you an actuary? Are you a salesperson? So it's difficult for me to answer a question without getting a little more information from you. IT profession falls under regulated or non-regulated profession. Well, IT is an interesting thing, Pramod. It's under the unregulated profession, but there are a lot of IT bodies which you can connect with, and they will help you understand the market, understand the labor market, where you can get better jobs, so on and so forth. What are the opportunities for, this is Lokesh. What is the opportunities for part-time or half-a-day jobs in case my spouse wants to support me financially? Yeah, you can get part-time jobs. What is the process to apply for preschool of a child after landing in Canada from Saurabh Mishra? Don't know where you're going, but I'll tell you this, that once you land here, if you go into a settlement agency, they will guide you. It's very difficult for us to be experts and take the time to give you all this information in this juncture. But yeah, go to a settlement agency, they'll help you. They'll also help you identify the schools. Shilpa, question. In Canada, when does the school year begin? The school year begins in September, Shilpa. Credentials, this is Ketal. Credentials of documents are done by Wes. How much time does it take to get it done? I can't answer that. You have to ask Wes. Are there jobs available to someone who completed a diploma course from Seneca College in Canada? Yes, there are. Cheyenne has left. So, can children pursue career in defense of government service? Interesting question. If you want to get into the army or into the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, that's the RCMP, you need to have Canadian citizenship. So that will take you at least a minimum of 4 to 5 years. Which place in Canada is best for compliance, operational risk jobs for banking, financial services as well as jobs for banking, investment, etc. Abhishek Roy. I would think Toronto would be the best place. I did MS in construction management from the US. I live in India. I'm thinking about working in Canada. Which cities have a boom in construction presently? The answer is Vancouver and Toronto. Is education and medical completely free? Well, yes and no. Education is free up to your school levels. Medical is free as long as it is going to a doctor or going to specialists or in the hospital. Your pharmaceutical costs are not free. You have to pay for that, or your employer pays for it. Okay. Is there which category does the construction industry project management fall in? Is it regulatory or unregulatory? I don't know. Honest answer. I mean, sorry. You know what would be useful is for you to go to. We've been working with the BC Construction Association. Go to their website. They have a program for pre-arrival immigrants, and see if they can answer your question. And that completes my lot. Pankaj, do you have any further questions?
I have another question from Satish, and I think this is something somebody else asked you. Which province is cheaper for newcomers and easy to settle down? It's very difficult to say in such a general fashion. It depends on your profession. It depends upon what is it that you're looking for, and what is your own personal choices in terms of spending money and the kind of house you want to live in, the kind of, so it's very difficult to say. As Nick has said earlier multiple times, Toronto and Vancouver are probably a little more expensive. Ottawa and Montreal may be a little more expensive as well. But in terms of where you settle in Ontario, there are places up north or other places where it will be a lot cheaper within Ontario, which is the same province where Toronto is also there. So it's very difficult, depends on which city or town you want to settle in, the kind of job you want to do, and so on. That's pretty much it from me. Nick, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you and Ryan and Alex and Dave, all the members of your team, for arranging this platform and making this possible. We have had the highest attendance so far, I think. So I'd like to congratulate everybody for participating and for asking such good questions, which help not just you, but people who are going to follow these sessions after you're done. And once again, Nick, thanks very much, and a very good night to everyone.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Thank you to Scotiabank for sponsoring this. This helps you, the audience, succeed in Canada. You have the opportunity to open bank accounts with Scotiabank before coming to Canada, and that will help you a lot in your journey. Thank you all very much. Good night. Shubh Ratri.